Hey, it's Chris Allingham with Richard Weber Bullet. It's March 2019 and I'm back again with 10 more questions that people have sent in through email, through social media, and through the Virtual Weber Bulletin board. And I'm going to answer these questions for you right now. I'm out in the garage again this time. I was in the garage back in January when I last did this. It was cold and rainy then, and it's still cold and rainy now. So one of these days I'm sure the rain will stop and I will get back outside, but not today. So let's dive into the questions. Question number 1. I separated a whole brisket to make corned beef using just the flat portion. What can I do now with the point? I thought about burnt ends, but you only have a recipe for that after smoking a whole brisket. Do you have any suggestions? Yeah, my suggestion is you make burnt ends out of it. All you have to do is set that point aside. I've got one right here from the last time my wife cooked a brisket flat. I separated the point, I vacuum packed it, I threw it in the freezer, and my wife cooked the flat as a braise with onions and mushrooms. And now I've got this thing sitting around in the freezer. And next time I have another one of these, or if I have a whole brisket that I smoke, or I've got some pork butts that are going in for a long smoke, I will thaw this out, I will rub it, I'll put it in the cooker, 250 to 275, until it hits about 205 or 210, and then I will cube it up and I will mix it with some barbecue sauce, put it in a foil pan, and let that reduce and simmer and caramelize. That'll be some beautiful burnt ends. Or I could do it as featured on the website in the burnt ends article. I could just take it to 205 and or 210 and then just cube it and sauce it and plate it or put it on a bun right there. So the whole point though is that if you've got a stray brisket point like this, just cook it like you would a brisket and turn it into burnt ends. I'll put the link for the burnt end article up on the screen so you can check that out. And there's of course a million other burnt end articles out there on the internet. Question number 2. I will be barbecuing for our 15th annual turkey hunt next weekend. Well, that sounds like fun. I'm planning sliced pork sandwiches and I'm concerned on how best to smoke the boneless pork butt. Ideally, it's smoked to a consistency that allows slicing with a commercial meat slicer. There's zero chance I could do that with pork smoked at 225 for 8 to 15 hours. Please let me know your thoughts. Well, in order to make sliced pork, you have to cook it for less time and to a lower internal temperature than you would for pulled pork. The temperature is somewhere in the range of 175 to 185. I've only done this once and I did it many, many years ago. I think I cooked it toward 180 or 185, but I will put up on the screen a link to a very nice article on ThermoWorks where the author talks about doing a smoked sliced pork butt. He cooks the pork butt to 175 and then slices it, and you get a very nice product that way. You're basically cooking it long enough to break down some of the collagen in the connective tissue, enough to where it eats in a tender way, but not so much that it falls apart. And that's really what you're going for. So we'll put that up on the screen. That's a trusted resource of ThermoWorks, and you can check that out and see if that's helpful. Question number 3. If I smoke a brisket to 170 degrees Fahrenheit, then wrap it in aluminum foil, is there any difference if I finish it in the oven in the kitchen versus in the smoker? Well, I mean, actually there's really no difference, because once you wrap the meat in foil, it's not getting any more smoke application from the smoker. You're just applying heat to the meat at this point. And the heat of the smoker is really the same as the heat of the oven. So whether you do it in the house or do it in the backyard really depends upon a number of factors, like, is it freaking cold outside, cold and windy, snowing, raining? You know, in that case, you might just bring it in the house because you'll be warmer yourself and more comfortable. Do you mind wasting the hot fuel that you've got in your Smokey Mountain Cooker? If it bothers you to waste that fuel, then by all means wrap the meat and return it to the smoker so that you utilize the remaining charcoal that you have there. But in terms of the end product, really no difference whether you, once you've got it wrapped in foil, whether you finish it in the house, in the oven, or in the backyard in the smoker, same result. Question number 4. Has your opinion about enhanced meat changed over the years? It seems to have gained popularity and is used successfully by some winning competition barbecue teams. Well, enhanced meat kind of came on the scene a number of years ago. I mean, it's been at least 10 years ago, maybe 15. And it was a bit controversial at the time. The thought of, paying good money for meat that was injected with water and salt and other things rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Of course, there was already precedent for that in terms of turkeys, because you had the butterball turkey, which was an injected, enhanced turkey, which had been available for a long, long time. But pork products came on the scene a number of years ago with ribs and pork butt that was injected with a solution. And a lot of people didn't care for that. But what's happened in the last 5 years or so is that some of the companies like Smithfield have really worked hard to get their products into competition barbecue, and some of those products are enhanced injected products. And they've put up a lot of money for contest prizes and for sponsorships and help defray the cost for teams in competing if they'll use Smithfield products, and some of those products are enhanced products. And there are examples of teams that are out there using injected pork ribs, for example, and they are winning contests week in and week out. So, if you know what you're doing with those products, you know how to adjust your rubs and your sauces to account for the salt and the flavorings that have already been injected into the meat by the processor, you can come up with a good result that will win you a call at a barbecue contest. I am still, however, sort of a purist. I like to buy a blank canvas. I like to buy plain pork ribs or pork butts and then either inject my own flavorings or add my own rubs or both, and not really rely on the injection to do any of that for me. The exception, though, for me sometimes can be turkey, because it is getting harder to find non-injected turkeys. So at Thanksgiving, sometimes I will cook an injected turkey. But for most of my barbecue, I'm using a non-injected meat. And having said that, companies like Smithfield, they also make some of their products that are non-injected. So you do have a choice in the marketplace of what you want to use. But it is fair to say that enhanced meat products, particularly pork, ribs, and pork butts, have gained more popularity among a lot of people at home and also people who cook competitively. Question number 5. I'm trying to eat healthier and I want to make smoked turkey breast for sandwiches. Should I smoke it with the skin on or off? I do a fair amount of turkey breast, and when I'm cooking it for Thanksgiving, I'm usually doing the whole breast, both left and right breast portion still on the bone, and I cook that with the skin on, and then I separate it from the bone and I cut it into nice 1/4 inch slices and put it on a platter with the skin on, and that's the Thanksgiving preparation, right? I think people expect to see skin on Thanksgiving turkey. But when I'm making it at home for sandwiches during the rest of the year, I take the skin off the turkey breast, I put the rub directly on the meat, and I smoke it. You get good color, you get good smoke on the skinless turkey breast, and you slice it up to whatever thickness you like, whether you cut it by hand or cut it with a meat slicer or an electric knife. You get a very nice result that way. And frankly, the skin is not that great, to be honest with you, on most smoked turkey. So my recommendation is, if you're gonna make smoked turkey breast for any other time of year besides Thanksgiving, and you're gonna put it on a sandwich, I would remove the skin before I rubbed it and smoked it in the Smokey Mountain Cooker. Question number 6. I saw your recent article on baking brownies in the Smokey Mountain Cooker. What I'm really interested in is baking pizza. Can I do that in the Smokey Mountain Cooker? I wish you would make a video on the subject. I have never baked pizza in the Smokey Mountain Cooker myself. There is an article on the Virtual Weber Bullet website about baking pizza and other kinds of breads. That material and those photos came from a gentleman named Dave Stamper, who was a big proponent of baking pizzas and focaccia and other things in his Weber Bullet. I'll put the link up to that article on the screen for you to check out. You know, for me, I have just not been bitten by the pizza bug. I like pizza. I'm not a fanatic about it. Where I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, there's a lot of good pizza to be had in restaurants, and so I don't really feel compelled to do it myself. The one thing I would point out to you though, if you look at the article that I'll link to, you'll see that Dave is using a pizza stone, and my understanding from a lot of the podcasts I listen to is that the thing today is not so much a pizza stone as it is a pizza steel. A pizza steel is a thick piece of steel designed for use in a grill or in an oven that really gets high temperature going for the pizza, and it will not crack. It will not absorb weird odors like a pizza stone will. They're quite expensive. I'll see if I can find one on Amazon and put that up for you on the screen, perhaps with a picture so you can check it out. But I think the only improvement you could probably make to Dave's process would be consider substituting a pizza steel for the pizza stone that he shows in his article. Question number 7. Have you ever barbecued anything that was a complete and utter failure? I have. To be honest with you, it hasn't happened that often, and that's not to say that I am an amazing, barbecuer. I cook pretty simply. I do a lot of things again and again that I like. Most of those things have shown up on the Virtual Weber Bullet as articles. But it's also a testament, I think, to how easy it is to use the Smokey Mountain Cooker. It's not very hard, and with a few simple instructions, you can be successful most of the time. The screw up tends to happen with the recipe itself. Something that, the rub or a sauce that didn't work out. And the one thing that comes to mind for me was I once cooked some blackberry pork ribs, and the downside to keeping a cooking log is I can actually find this cook in my binder, and I looked it up, and here it is. This was July 21st of the year 2000, so this is 18, almost 19 years ago. I cooked some spare ribs with a Texas barbecue rub followed by a blackberry glaze at the end. And I have the recipe here for the glaze. I'll just read it to you. You tell me what you think about this. One cup of rinsed raspberries, quarter cup of ketchup, quarter cup of honey, quarter cup of packed dark brown sugar, a teaspoon of pepper, a half teaspoon of salt, quarter teaspoon of MSG, 1 teaspoon of Tabasco sauce, 1/8 of a cup of minced fresh garlic, loosely measured. It looks like you whiz it up in the blender, and then you strain it to remove the solids. Then you put it in a saucepan and you simmer it to thicken it. My note here says it was already pretty thick before I heated it. I simmered it for 15 minutes over medium to medium-low heat. That resulted in about 2/3 of a cup of liquid, and then I mixed that 50-50 with Casey Masterpiece barbecue sauce. So you took a stock barbecue sauce and you cut it in half with this blackberry ketchup honey mixture. So I look at my notes here for what I thought about how it turned out. I wrote here, I gave most of it to my grandma during her visit. So my poor grandma, rest her soul, I passed off a bunch of ribs on my grandma when she visited that I didn't particularly care for. And at the end I say here, wouldn't do them again. So that's the biggest failure that I've ever had, I think, in making barbecue. That's the one that sticks out for me. Blackberry ribs. I'll never do it again. Question number 8. I've enjoyed reading some of your barbecue restaurant reviews on the Virtual Weber Bulletin board. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. What advice can you offer when visiting a barbecue joint for the first time? Well, I just had the pleasure of visiting a couple of new barbecue restaurants in Arizona. My wife and I went down to Scottsdale and Phoenix for some spring training baseball. Had never done that before, and that was a lot of fun. If you're a baseball fan, then you can get yourself down to spring training. That's a pretty cool experience. While we were there, we visited a couple of barbecue restaurants, and I've posted reviews on them on the Virtual Weber Bulletin board. One was a place called Bootlegger's Smokehouse, that was in Old Town Scottsdale, and the other one is the very famous Little Miss Barbecue in Phoenix. There are 2 locations there. We went to the one in a neighborhood called Sunny Slope and had a fantastic experience. I will put links to those in the description of this video. The links are quite lengthy, so I won't put them on the screen, but if you look at the YouTube description, you'll find the links there if you're interested in either of those reviews. I do visit barbecue restaurants and I do review them and I post them on the bullet board. And as for the question, advice when visiting a joint for the first time, I have 3 pieces of advice for you. One is that you should try to visit a barbecue restaurant, eat there within the first hour of it opening up for the day. Most barbecue restaurants cook their long cooking meats like brisket and pork butt only once a day. They'll start them, let's say, in the late afternoon, early evening. They'll get done sometime in the middle of the night or early the next morning, and then they'll hold them until opening time at, let's say, 11 a.m. Lots of barbecue joints open at 11 a.m. They serve lunch, and they stay open until they run out of meat. If you show up early, you'll have a choice of everything available on the menu, and it will be fresh and moist and delicious. If you show up at 10 minutes before closing time, a lot of things will be sold out and a lot of things will be dried out. So your best barbecue is early on in their service process. Now, when we went to this place in Phoenix called Little Miss Barbecue, interestingly enough, that particular restaurant that we went to, the location we went to in Sunny Slope, opens up at 4 p.m. and stays open until 9 p.m. So they're only open for a dinner service. So at that restaurant, you'd want to show up between 4 and 5 p.m. Now, of course, that restaurant has a 2-hour wait, so you actually need to get there much earlier than 4 p.m. But the point is, you want to try to eat within the first hour or as early as you can in their service process in order to get the best food. My second piece of advice is to ask the person at the counter what's their specialty or what's the thing that they're most known for. My wife is really good about doing that when we go to restaurants. I sometimes forget to ask that. But for example, Little Miss Barbecue recently said to us, well, we're known for our brisket and that's awesome, but you know what? We've got some really amazing turkey breast today, and some people say they like it more than the brisket. And so we ordered some, and in fact, it was really moist and tender and delicious and smoky. So don't be afraid to ask the person at the counter, what's your best product? What are you known for? What's the one thing I should not walk out of here without trying today? The third piece of advice I have for you is that I've got a link to an article. It's posted on the Virtual Weber Bulletin board by Daniel Vaughn, who's the barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine. It's an article called How to Avoid Looking Like a Noob, like a newbie, a new person. How to avoid looking like a noob when eating barbecue. And he has a whole series of suggestions for what you should do when you show up at a barbecue restaurant that you're unfamiliar with, how to get the best experience, and how to not embarrass yourself. One of those tips in his article is the first thing I mentioned, which is make sure that you eat early on in the service process so that you get the freshest, most delicious meat. It's a great article, some good tips. I will link that in the description of this video so you can check it out. Question number 9. I read somewhere that you were named the Certified Barbecue Judge of the Year by the California Barbecue Association. Congratulations. I'm interested in becoming a judge. How do I become one? Well, that is true. I was humbled and honored to be named the California Barbecue Association's Judge of the Year for 2018. I'm still trying to process what that means, but it's really an honor and I really greatly appreciate the distinction. How do you become a barbecue judge? Well, there are sanctioning organizations all over the United States that sanction and put on contests, and many of them have their own criteria for being judges. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, Montana, Idaho, there's an organization called the Pacific Northwest Barbecue Association. They have their own rules and they have their own judging criteria, and they train judges to judge using their rules. There's organizations in Florida, South Carolina, Georgia. In Texas, there's the very popular International Barbecue Cookers Association. There's also the Memphis Barbecue Network. These are all groups that sanction contests and offer judging opportunities. One of the largest ones, I guess fair to say the biggest one, and the one that I'm a member of, is the Kansas City Barbecue Society. They sanction contests all over the United States and in Europe. You can find information about becoming a judge with the Kansas City Barbecue Society at kcbs.us. The website is kcbs.us, and there's a tab on their website for judging, and I believe there's a subsection called Explore Judging, and it will tell you how you can begin the process of becoming a judge. To summarize that process, basically you have to become a paying member of KCBS, and you have to take a half-day judging class. Those classes are held many times throughout the year all over the United States. Here in California, those classes have cost, over the last couple of years, they've cost $90 to $100. I'm sure the price varies based on where you are in the country, and if you're watching this video a few years from now, I'm recording this March 2019, the prices may be up or down, so don't quote me on the price. But the price usually includes the cost of 1 year's membership to KCBS plus the cost of the class. And at the class, you will have instructors there who will teach you the rules for judging barbecue according to KCBS standards. And some volunteers will have actually produced barbecue that you can try, and you will evaluate it using the criteria that you're taught as part of your training. Once you've completed the class and you've got your membership with KCBS, you are then qualified to sign up for barbecue contests near you or far away from you, if you'd like. KCBS publishes a newsletter, and they have a website where you can search for contests near you or contests all over the country. And the process is that basically you either sign up on a sign-in form online, or sometimes you contact the contest organizer directly by email, and you indicate that you're a barbecue judge and you would be interested in judging their contest, and you go from there. And that's how you have the opportunity to judge contests, at least as a KCBS judge, as I do. And question number 10, the final question. Do you have any tips on how to be a good barbecue judge? Well, that's a loaded question. I almost hesitate to answer it. There's a lot of different ways you can be a good judge. There's no just one way to do it, but I did write down a few things that I don't think are terribly controversial about being a good judge. First of all, make sure that you show up and that you show up on time. You'd be surprised. There are a few people who sometimes don't show up. And of course, if you're like dead on the side of the road, obviously that's understandable, but you should always contact the rep or the contest organizer and let them know that you're not going to be there. Give them as much advance notice as you can, because we're all counting on you to be there. There's a lot of jobs that need to be done, and if you don't show up, then the slack has to be picked up by everybody else, and that is not always great. So if you've committed to a contest, show up and show up on time. And if not, let the reps know. Be willing to do any job necessary in the judging area. There are just jobs that need to be done, and they're looking for volunteers to receive the entry boxes or to help table captain or any other roles that are necessary to make a contest go. And if you've got a good spirit about it and you're willing to just help out with anything possible, that goes a long way toward making the contest work. So be flexible in what you're willing to do at a contest. Take the judging process as seriously as the teams take the cooking process. You've certainly taken your time to go to the contest, and I don't want to minimize the value of your time, but the teams have put in a lot of time and a lot of money and equipment and materials to cook this meat that they're about to present to you as a judge. And there's a lot riding on it, a lot of money, there's a lot of prizes and trophies, and there are points that are accumulated toward Team of the Year or Rookie of the Year awards. So just remember that it's a serious process and that you need to take it seriously as you're discharging your duties as a judge. I think it's important for you to have a broad interpretation of what good barbecue tastes like. If you walk into a contest thinking that there's only one and just one only flavor profile for excellent barbecue, you're not going to be fair to the teams, because I think frankly there are many different flavor profiles. sweet, spicy, mustardy, tomatoey, tropical, fruity, all kinds of flavor profiles that can result in excellent barbecue. And that's what you're trying to determine as a judge. Is this barbecue excellent? Excellent gets a score of 9. So, you know, keep your mind open, have a broad interpretation of what delicious barbecue is, and then you'll score accordingly. Don't be stingy when it comes out to giving those 9s. Under KCBS rules, 9 is the highest score you can give for an excellent entry. If you just finished tasting one entry and you gave it a 9, that doesn't mean the next one can't get a 9. Right? You can give a 9 to any entry you want if it meets the criteria for excellent barbecue. If you are on the fence, if you think, well, this could be an 8 or a 9, or it could be a 7 or an 8, just, you know, do the team a favor, round your score up to the next highest number, and don't sweat it. Tie goes the runner, so to speak. Give the higher score if you're on the fence. And then finally, you know, help out at the end of the contest. It's awfully tempting sometimes to have, you know, finished the contest. You say goodbye to your friends, you just split and take off. Oftentimes, there's other things that need to be done. The tables need to be wiped down. The chairs need to be folded up. Maybe the reps need to have someone sort the comment cards. There's other things that can be done and need to be done, and you can be very helpful as a judge if you help with those tasks after the fact. I'd also recommend that if you can, you should stay till 5 o'clock and see the awards ceremony. You know, it's not just about showing up and eating meat, it's about the whole experience of meeting the competitors, having a chance to socialize with them, and to see what the results were. It's a lot of fun to stick around and see how fun and enthusiastic the teams are when they get their awards. It's really a kick. So stick around and watch the awards if you have time to do that. And finally, make sure to thank the contest organizer and thank the contest reps. These folks have put a lot of time into making the contest possible. The contest organizer has put a lot of time and a lot of money on the line to make the contest happen. So you'd have no hobby of barbecue competition if it weren't for the organizers who put these things on. So make sure that you say thank you to the contest organizer. Well, that wraps up this Q&A for March 2019. I want to thank you for watching. I hope you found something in here useful. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to send them to the address you see on the screen, and maybe your question will show up in a future Q&A. Please like and subscribe to my videos, and until next time, take care everybody. Bye-bye.